If you're thinking about moving to the Rapid City and Black Hills area in 2025, I have just the resource for you. Hey everybody, it's Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. And here is the ultimate guide to moving to Rapid City in 2025. I've put together all the most commonly asked questions of the videos that I've done over the past few years in one big long video. Over 2 hours of video to go from the most recent cost of living, pros and cons, why you should move here, why you should move here. One of these videos is about the Rapid City areas that I did in 2020, and you can see the COVID hair. So now it's time for the ultimate guide to moving to Rapid City in 2025.
Are you thinking about moving to the Rapid City or Black Hills area in 2025? Well, you're in luck because we're going to talk all about the steps involved in buying a property in our area for you coming from out of town in 2025. Whether you just kind of got the idea in your head to think about South Dakota for a moving destination, or you've had it on your radar for a while, let's talk about the ABCs of getting into a property here in 2025. The first step is research.
This is where the fun begins.
Which, if you're watching this video right now, you're probably already in. That's exactly what my channel is all about. I've got over 400 videos on this channel talking about moving to the area, living in the area, and what's real estate like in the area. So my first tip for you in your research stage is to watch the videos. They will probably answer the majority of the questions that you are asking yourself. What about the weather? I mean, hey, it's in wintertime in South Dakota. What about the schools? How are things going to work for me moving in there? What's the cost of living like? All of these questions I've answered somewhere in this catalog of videos. I had one guy that started at the very beginning, like some old 2012 market video that was really bad, and watched all the videos all the way up in double speed to get all the information. Once you start watching a few videos and get an idea of whether or not this area is right for you or not, it's time to start maybe looking at some properties. You can go to my website, rapidhomesonline.com, and register for an account where you can start looking and searching for all the properties in your price range all over the Black Hills. My website has all the active listings from Rapid City, the Black Hills, and around. Any agent that lives in the Rapid City area or the Black Hills area, any listing that they have, they put on the MLS system, that'll be on my website. What this does is really give you a good idea of what you can expect to buy for the price point that you're interested in. For example, if you're dreaming of a log cabin in the Black Hills and you only have $200,000 to spend, you're going to find out really quick that that just doesn't exist. One of the most important things about this research stage is getting your expectations in the right place, getting real about what's actually around and, what's going on here in Rapid City and the Black Hills. Next, I always encourage a visit to our area. Now, this is great because the Black Hills are right there. You can mix it with a vacation. There's a lot of things to do and see, especially during the summertime when everything is open. But there's a lot of other wonderful things to see in the fall, spring, and the wintertime as well. And sometimes people like to come up here during winter so they can get a feel of what it's actually like to live here during the wintertime. When you get that trip scheduled, hit me up. Let's get together and at least have a conversation about real estate in Rapid City, and I can answer your questions about Rapid City and the area. I'll get out my Rapid City map and a Black Hills map, and we'll go over just a really good overview of what you can expect in the different areas of Rapid City and the Black Hills. And we'll talk about your goals, what you're thinking, your dreams for a potential move to our area. And even if our area is just in the possibility stages, maybe it's a few years down the road, I still love to meet with you. We can have the conversation. A lot of times that will give you the yes or no really fast. Also, depending on my schedule and where you are in your process, sometimes I like to take you driving through some of the neighborhoods to give you a really good insider look at the neighborhoods that you're interested in, the price points that you're interested in. That goes a long way to help you see, yes, I like this, no, I don't, maybe I want to up my price a little bit, all the different things. I've done this so many times for the past few years, and it's something that really helps everybody get a real good grasp of what they can expect moving to the area. However, if you're thinking about a log cabin or some land anywhere from between Spearfish and Hot Springs in the Black Hills, I'll probably just print out some data sheets for you, send you off on your way so you can take some time and drive through the Black Hills, check out all the different properties with those data sheets and the directions on them. And while you're here visiting, make sure that you do the things you would as a local. It's a lot different being here as a tourist than being as a local. Go to the grocery store, check out the shopping centers, go to the library if that's what you're interested in. All of these things will help you make the decision if Rapid City and the Black Hills is for you or not. I've had a lot of people come here and just like As soon as I came over the hill, I knew it was home. And other people that said, I came here and I just didn't get it. I just didn't feel it. I'd rather have you visit and say no than come up here and decide, crap, I don't love it up here at all. I want you to love where you live. So I want to make sure that when you visit, make sure that you have all the information that you need to make the decision. Okay, now that you've made your decision, okay, I think I want to do this Black Hills thing. The next step is money.
Money, money, money by the pound.
How are you going to buy what you want to buy? Are you going to pay cash, or are you going to need a mortgage to buy the property? Obviously, cash is king. It's so much easier to buy a property with cash than it is through a mortgage. There's so many fewer hoops that you have to jump through. However, when we present an offer, and this is kind of getting up a few steps, but let's just put it in here right now. When we present an offer to a potential seller, we'll need some sort of statement that says, hey, yes, this person has the money to make this purchase. The most preferable way would be for this to be a letter from a banker or from your financial advisor that says, hey, so-and-so has the funds to make this purchase, period. That's all we needed to say. But sometimes that's not easy. You don't have a person that really runs that for you. So we need a screenshot of your account numbers, and we'll just line out the account number showing that you have the funds to make this purchase that you're working on purchasing. If you need a loan to buy the property, I will always, always, always encourage you to go local. Local lending companies will get the job done better and usually cheaper than your national companies. I had a situation last year where I had some buyers that were using a national company to buy the property with an FHA loan. That required a 3.5% down payment, and they would have to sell their camper to make this happen. That was the plan. We're going to sell the camper, and that's where our earnest money is going to come from, or that's where our down payment is going to come from. This company was not authorized to do a South Dakota housing loan, which is your first-time home buyer loan programs. Once I got my people over to the local lender with the South Dakota housing program, they had no down payment. They actually had a lower monthly payment somehow, and they didn't have to sell their camper. Always go local. Not only will you usually save money, they'll get things done quicker and more efficient because they're here and they know how things go. Usually the national companies, you've got a loan originator that you're talking to, then there's a processor. There's 3 or 4 different people that you're kind of working with through the whole process instead of just 1 or 2 here locally. Even if you need to sell your property before you get out here, that's something that the lender will be able to say, okay, yep, once we get your home sold, then we'll have the money to move it over here, etc., or whatever else they have to do. I always recommend that you do this sooner rather than later. Number one, so you know how much you can afford. That way we're not dreaming about the $500,000 homes when you can only afford $400,000. Number two, it's best to have time if there are any credit issues, something you need to fix. If there's time to get that done, then we can get that done in a timely manner so that we're not behind the gun finding something, then realizing, oh, I got to fix some credit, and we lose a property that you really love because we didn't get that done already. Yes, mortgage pre-approvals only last for 90 days or something like that, but it's a whole lot easier just to renew that than it is to do the whole process all from scratch. Even if you're 6 months out, getting that pre-approval, making sure everything is square on that end is far more preferable than waiting for the 6 months and then realizing, oh, I got to do all this work, and then you're another 3 months out before you can actually buy. I do have a number of local lenders that I love to work with that I will share with you, and you can have conversations with them. When I tell you to have conversations with them, you're talking to somebody about your financial everything for like months. So you want to like the person. You've got a mixture of different people. One's very friendly and down to earth. The other one's a little more numbers oriented, very type A. And so depending on who you are and your match, you might appreciate or like one versus the other. So make sure you make the phone calls, just have the conversation initially to see if you like them, to see if you like to work with them. You'll also be able to get an idea from both sides, what their closing costs are, what their interest rates are, all the different things on that level. While we're talking money, we have to talk about interest rates. At the end of 2024, there was talk about, oh yeah, they're going to start going down. By the end of 2025, we're probably going to be, in the mid 5s. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. We've seen rates kind of jump back up here the past few months. So if you're thinking about buying a property, I wouldn't plan on a lower interest rate. I would work with what you have at the interest rate we have presently to buy whatever you need. Based on everything going on, I just don't know that they're actually going to come down next year. It might be another year or two before we actually see some relief in that category, depending on how all the economy stuff goes on, etc. The third step is where I come in officially.
What can I say except you're welcome?
Hopefully by the time you've watched my videos, we visited together, You are comfortable enough with me that you would like to hire me to work with you to help purchase your property here in the Rapid City or Black Hills area. If you haven't already figured out from the videos, I am pretty easygoing. I'm not here to super sales you. I just want to make sure that you find the right place for you, and that's what's most important to me. However, this is still a business, and I have rules and regulations to follow. One of these rules is the buyer agreement. Last year, the National Association of Realtors, which I have to be a part of my MLS board, is requiring us to get a buyer broker agreement signed before we do any showing, virtually or otherwise. What this is about a 4-page document that talks about how I, a realtor in South Dakota, can help you, the public. It talks about the different ways I can represent you or represent the seller or represent both of you. It then also talks about my obligations to you, your obligations to me, and how I'm going to get paid in this whole scenario. Now, there's a clause that pretty much says that you're responsible for paying me a certain percentage for my work to help you find a property. When we present an offer to the seller, there is a clause in our purchase agreement contracts that talks about, seller, I want you to pay my buyer's agent X amount. So that all kind of gets taken care of at that point. When you're out of town trying to buy a property here, it is imperative that you have someone that's here to be your eyes, your nose, your ears, your legs. I can also tell you things about different areas and different neighborhoods that are known. For example, this neighborhood over here, I wouldn't sell a house to you in that neighborhood at all because there was a sinkhole in that neighborhood in 2020. This neighborhood over here, they've had bad water. They've had well issues, those type of things. I cannot tell you this is a good neighborhood. This is a bad neighborhood. That is called steering. It is against the fair housing regulations that is a federal law. I will put together a whole video about things I can and cannot say that I'll put up here somewhere in the dip somewhere. I'll put it. Yeah. Fair housing comes down to me not being able to give my opinion about certain things for you. You need to make your own decisions about whether you like this neighborhood or whether you like that neighborhood. Some people with different experiences might think one neighborhood is not a big deal and others wouldn't live there if their life depended on it. So it's up to you to make these decisions. I'll guide you to where you can find some information, where you can find the facts, but I cannot tell you this is good or this is bad. All right, step number 4, we've got me signed up to be your buyer's agent and we're ready to rock and roll and start looking at properties.
What do you need? What do you need?
When we get to this stage, I like to really start narrowing down what you're looking for, and I'll get you from my website to the back end of our MLS system that has a little bit more data and more data points that we can select for. For instance, if you say I definitely want a main floor laundry, I can search for just that in our MLS system, and every time a new one with the main floor laundry pops up, boom, you get the email saying, hey, check it out. Once you decide, hey, I want to look at these properties, we schedule a time to go look at them together. I get you on my phone, and I usually use Google Meet because it seems to have a little bit less juice than Zoom, and I'll walk you through the property, talking to you what I see, talking to you about what I hear, talking to you about what I smell, very important. As I'm looking at the property, I point at, hey, this is the siding, this is the heating, this looks good, doesn't look so great, and I make sure that you get a real good feel for the entire property and answer any questions that you might have. I've been doing it this way for a number of years now, and a number of people have even bought properties sight unseen, not actual stuff, but just through the video. And I asked them later, I said, okay, when you got here and physically walked in the house, did you feel like it was a good representation of what you were expecting? And they said, yeah, this is exactly what I was expecting. Now, depending on who you are, you might want to walk in the property. My wife is super sensitive. She'd want to actually feel what the home felt like. If that's you, we can schedule a time when you come up here and we can look at as many as we can over a weekend, over a couple of days to make sure you see as many as possible, and then you can make your decision. Fortunately, the market is right now in a situation where we can actually look at more than 1 or 2. We could probably see 6, maybe 10, maybe 12 properties for you to get a good feel of what you can expect in that price point and make your decision. However, I'm expecting that market to really heat up in the spring. And while it's probably not going to be like 2021, where if you didn't look at a property the day it was listed and put an offer with $10,000 above average, I mean, it was a mess. But if you really liked a property, we might not have time for you to fly up here, take a look at it, and put an offer in. By that time, it might be gone. So sometimes what I like to do is we put an offer on a property and you come up for the home inspection 7 to 10 days later. That gives you a chance to get into the property, gives you a chance to really check everything out. You're talking with the home inspector one-on-one and you get a good feel for the structural integrity of the property. And then you can decide, you know what, this isn't really what I was thinking. I'm not happy with it now that I'm here and looking at it. And then at least we have an opportunity to get out of the property based on the home inspection. And this is something that doesn't need to happen over a weekend. Maybe you're looking for something very specific, and it's going to take some time to find that right property. We can just do some ones and twosy showings until we get to the point where we find the one that works for you. That's how it works. Quick note about buying a home in wintertime. Now, I know that moving in winter is not at the top of your hit list right now. However, the real estate market usually slows down starting about November through the holidays, and then kind of starts slowly ramping up from January, February. Sometimes we can get our spring market as early as March. Sometimes the spring market doesn't hit till May. So depending on the year, you might be able to find some properties that have been sitting on the market for a while that have been price reduced, and then you could get a pretty decent deal. I'm closing on a property tomorrow that was originally listed at $325,000. My buyer is getting it for $300,000. So he actually got a pretty good discount because the seller was really ready to get done with it and sell it. Obviously, I can't guarantee every deal will be like that, but generally you can get a better deal in the wintertime. You have more sellers that are selling, and the sellers that are selling are wanting to sell. They need to sell for some reason or another. And there are fewer buyers out there because a lot of buyers are like, well, wait till spring. So your opportunity could be in the wintertime. All right, now that we found the property that you're interested in buying, now we put together a purchase agreement.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
This document talks about the earnest money we put down. We talk about how much we want to offer on the property. We talk about that home inspection time frame. And then there's a clause about closing costs. If you need the seller to help pay for some of your closing costs, a ballpark is 2 to 3% of the purchase price is what those closing costs are probably going to be. And then there's a clause, as I mentioned earlier, that talks about, hey, I want you, seller, to pay my buyer's agent this percentage. And then everything is negotiable at that point. And of course, the other thing on here is the closing date. Now, typically in our area, it takes about 30 to 45 days to close a mortgage loan. So we have to wait for the appraiser to get there and then the bank to do their thing. So it takes about 30 to 45 days for everything to happen from purchase agreement acceptance to closing. So keep that in mind as you're going through this process. The other thing that we'll add, if necessary, is the home sale contingency. If you must sell your property here before you can buy a property over here. And then there's a few options that go along with that we won't get into detail right here. Once we get all those terms together, we get all the disclosures put together, we get the bill of sale put together, which transfers like the refrigerator, the stove, anything that's not attached to the property will be transferred to you via the bill of sale. In your state, some things might be common, like for instance, the washer and dryer might normally convey in your state, not necessarily in South Dakota. If it's not on the bill of sale, it does not come with the property. So once you put all this together, I send it to you, I email it to you for your signature, and that's all electronic signature. You send it back to me, we present to the seller, we counter back and forth, and we move forward with the process. Now, when you sign this document, there is no get out of jail free card here. It says that you intend to buy this property per the terms of the contract. And the only way that you can get out of this deal is per the terms of the contract. Other states have like a 3 or 4 or 5 day rescinding period. None of that here. If you present an offer and the seller signs it, you are buying the property as per the contract. I've had some people out of town, they presented the offer, they got it accepted, and all of a sudden they went, wait a minute, that moved too fast. So make sure if you sign that purchase agreement that you're ready to buy, you're ready to move forward. So I don't have to have an uncomfortable conversation with the listing agent saying, yeah, they don't want to buy it anymore. And then we have to draw up a cancellation of the purchase agreement, which has to be signed by both parties, which can get really annoying. If you sign the document, be prepared to buy it. Now that the seller has accepted your offer, it's time to talk about the next step, the closing process.
General.
Like a piece of cake.
We've got about a 14-day time period to get the inspection done and present something to the seller that says, hey, we're happy with it as it is, or I want you to fix A, B, C, and D. And then we have a little mini negotiation session over who's going to fix what and what all is going to happen. Once that's clear, we're waiting for the bank to send the appraiser if you've got a mortgage. If not, we can pretty much close in the next week or two if you wanted. But typically we're waiting for that appraiser to come by, look at the property, get that data back to the bank. The bank runs their data, makes sure that everything is good with you. And in this whole process, of course, the lender is telling you they need all sorts of crap. So get everything you need to the lender as soon as possible to make sure that we move forward with this process as quickly as possible. Once the lender has all the information and they're happy, they give us the clear to close, and we'll need about a 3-day time period after that before we can actually close. Right before we close, we do a walkthrough inspection of the property to make sure that, the sellers left the refrigerator and didn't. I had one scenario where we walked in the door and there was above the range microwave that they had removed, and they replaced the old 70s hood. The old arm is terrible. They didn't even paint or nothing. And in which case we had to say to the seller, hey, that was there, it's attached, we need it back, thank you very much. So it's very important to do that final walkthrough. That day of closing, we go to the title company, we sign the documents, and you are a proud owner of a new home in the Rapid City or Black Hills area. We can still close away. If you need to close where you are and you can't quite make it here for closing, all that's possible. I'll do the final walkthrough for you again on camera. We'll make sure everything is as we expected it to be. The one thing we'll need to make sure though is that there is enough time. Due to the fraud going around and title companies wanted to make sure that you are who you say you are, they're going to hire a mobile notary to go to your place, have you sign the documents, or a place that you agree on, have you sign the documents, and then they're going to send all those documents back, FedEx, to the title company. Until we get that back, we cannot close. So usually that takes an extra week or so for all those processes to kind of roll through there. So we'll make sure that we are aware of what needs to be done. If you do need to sign away, that we know where things are at, and we make sure that we're taking care of that prior to close. All right, there you have it. The steps to buying a home from out of town in 2025. Now, I've also created a step-by-step buyer's guide to buying a property. This goes over each phase of the process in about 2 to 3 minutes of a video each, to give you a very good idea of all the details of the process. I'll put a link to that playlist down below. South Dakota has so many amazing things, from the prairie vistas on the east, past the Missouri River to the Badlands, to the Black Hills National Forest. But the one thing it also has is a whole lot of crazy weather. You've heard me talk in other videos about all the different weather patterns we have here in South Dakota. But I now have a graph for you that's a little bit older, but I love this graph that talks about the predictableness of weather in the United States. And guess what? Rapid City is highlighted as the least predictable weather in the United States. Now let's flip over to this one that talks about the temperature of the United States. Same story, orange area, though maybe not as bad as Great Falls, Montana, we still have some of the least predictable weather patterns in the United States. If you want the same weather all the time, you gotta go to Honolulu. Not only is the weather in South Dakota unpredictable, we also hold the world record of the fastest temperature swing. On January 22nd in 1943 in Spearfish, South Dakota, at 7:32 a.m. in the morning, the temperature was -4 degrees. By 7:34, that temperature was 45 degrees. That's a 49-degree temperature difference in a matter of 2 minutes. So let's dive into the weather patterns in South Dakota and look at some of the record-breaking patterns to give you an idea of maybe the worst it could be. But before we get into these extreme records, let's talk about what's average throughout the state of South Dakota. So I did some searching online and put together a table of average weather patterns in Deadwood, Rapid City, Pierre, and Sioux Falls. And as you can see from this information, it's pretty much similar across the state, with the exception of a few outliers such as the snow in Lee Deadwood and the humidity in Sioux Falls. Here is a graph showing all the records in the state of South Dakota. The maximum temp has been 120 degrees. I can't imagine it being that hot. I know it's got up to 105 before, but 120 is quite hot for the state of South Dakota. And we've got quite the swing in South Dakota, going all the way down to -58 degrees in 1936. 8.74 inches of rain, 52 inches of snow in 24 hours back in 1973. In, guess where, Leeds, South Dakota, which also holds the record for the amount of snow depth with 73 inches of snow. Port Vivian, South Dakota in 2010 got hit with a hailstorm like none other. Can you imagine 8-inch hailstorms coming from the sky? We don't do things halfway in South Dakota. Now let's talk about each one of the extreme weather conditions that you can expect in the state of South Dakota. And we'll start off with the one that you imagine South Dakota the most. That would be blizzards. Fortunately, I've only had the honor of being stuck in the middle of South Dakota twice during a blizzard. There was a time I was picking up my mother-in-law, and we stayed the night in the Belvedere, South Dakota rest area because the roads were getting too bad to keep going. A few years later, working on the east side of the state, doing hardwood floors, we also managed to get to Mitchell before we had to stay there for a couple days before the interstate opened up and we could get home. These things are just part of life in South Dakota. One of the worst blizzards was March 2nd to the 4th in 1966. Over several feet of snow dropped, along with 70 miles an hour wind that claimed 6 lives and over 100,000 cattle. The deadliest snowstorm was back in 1888, where 235 people lost their lives during that blizzard. And I'll never forget October 3rd, 2013. Blizzard Atlas dropped 55 inches of snow in 2 days. It was called thunder snow because it was like a thunderstorm going on, but yet it was snowing. We were without power in our house for a day and a half, while some of the ranchers outside of town were without power for weeks, and thousands of livestock were lost. Here's a graph showing some of the bigger snowfall amounts in South Dakota history. In addition to blizzards, sometimes we have ice storms. One year coming back from Thanksgiving in Minnesota, we stopped in Mitchell because the roads were getting really icy. When we woke up the next day, there was like that much ice on the outside of our cars. One of the biggest ice storms was April 9th, 2013 in Sioux Falls, where they had 9 foot of snow and sleet on top of an Arctic blast. This created thick ice over power lines, caused branches to fall, and left 32,000 people out of power. You never know what you can expect in the spring in South Dakota. Could be snow, could be rain, could be ice. Yes, there is our hail. Although South Dakota is not on the highest list of hailstorms, it certainly is up there. The National Weather Service states that we in South Dakota, on average, will receive softball hail size or larger once every 1.74 years. So you make sure you get some good insurance because you're probably going to need it. And remember that 8-inch diameter hailstone we mentioned earlier? That at the moment is the largest hailstone found in the United States. In 2020, that year, there was a significant hailstorm that came through Piedmont, Somerset, and northern Rapid City. We live in the path of the storm, and this is the worst hailstorm that I've ever been a part of. It totaled both my kids' cars. It beat up my roof gutters on one side of my house. There were a couple people in our neighborhood that had windows busted, and anybody that had vinyl siding, that was just decimated like a war zone. It also went over the new car lots there north of I-90, and took out most of their inventory at that time. Now you see a few of them have hail-protected covers for their cars, and that's because of that storm. While the majority of the hailstorms aren't necessarily damaging, there seems to be always one huge hailstorm event that happens every year. The other thing we're known for in South Dakota is our wind. As you saw from the table I showcased earlier, our average wind speeds are somewhere in the range of 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe 10 to 20 during the winter months of the year to the spring months of the year, and then they drop down to 7, 8 during the summertime. Which is great because as a water skier in the summertime, I like my lake to be as glass as possible to ski over. On May 12, 2022, there was a derecho, a ground hurricane, that blew winds 90 to 110 miles an hour in South Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming. There was an image of a green, eerie-looking cloud over South Dakota that you may have seen all over social media after that time. This was that storm. I remember driving that way after the storm and seeing flattened fields, busted grain bins, and signs all over the place. And along with those winds comes their tornadoes. In the Black Hills, we don't get a lot of tornadoes. It's not something that I really worry about often. However, we did have one that touched down in Spearfish Canyon in July 2020, and in 2021, an EF1 tornado touched down south of Custer. So it is possible, it's just not something that we see regularly. South Dakota averages about 19 tornadoes a year, but they're just not as deadly as some of the others across the country. The most notable of this is Tornado Tuesday on June 24th, 2023, where they recorded 67 tornado touchdowns. This was an EF4 tornado that was a half-mile wide and pretty much destroyed the town of Manchester, South Dakota. It's also the storm where the largest pressure drop was recorded. The pressure dropped 100 millibars in 10 seconds. On May 8 in 1965 in Tripp County, there was a tornado, an EF5 tornado that was a mile wide. It traveled 30 miles in 30 minutes and pretty much destroyed 7 farm homes, but no one was injured. One of the deadliest tornadoes was May 30th, 1997 in Spencer, South Dakota. An F4 tornado came through and took out the town of Spencer, killing 6 people and injuring 150. There's a joke about Midwesterners going outside and watching a tornado as it comes towards you. And when you've lived here long enough, you can kind of tell when something's coming. But those tornadoes in the state of South Dakota, that ain't no joke. When you think of flooding, you're probably not thinking of South Dakota, but we're not immune to our floods in the state of South Dakota. The most notable of which is the Black Hills and Rapid City flood of 1972, where 15 inches of rain fell between Nemo and Sheridan Lake Road, right on Rapid Creek as it flowed into Rapid City. The creek rose 3.5 feet in 15 minutes, and a bunch of debris got caught on the spillway in Canyon Lake. The lake was 11 to 12 feet higher, so it flowed over and all the way into town. 28 people were killed in this flood, 3,000 injured, about 1,300 homes, about 5,000 cows, and 15 of 23 bridges destroyed. There was $160 million of damage in 1972 numbers, which translates to about $1.2 billion today. There was also the snowmelt flood of 2010 over on the east side of the state. In October 2009, there had been a lot of rain, plus there was 40 to 60 inches of snow on the ground that winter. And then at the end of March, it was 70 to 80 degrees, which is unusual for our area, which melted that snow really quickly, causing a whole bunch of flooding on the eastern side of the state. That was the same year we saw a lot of flooding along the Missouri and the Mississippi River. Even earlier this year, there was a lot of rain that came down on the eastern side of the state, closed down the interstate for a while, flooded some fields, and caused some damage in some of the towns in southeastern South Dakota. And finally, there are wildfires. When you think of wildfires, you do think of the Black Hills, and while that is definitely a danger, there are also some severe prairie fires. When that grass gets dry, it can be a fire hazard during the summer. Over the past 30 years, we've averaged 99 fires a year, with an average of 7,900 acres burnt every year. Some of the more notable fires happened in September of 1943, where 3 prairie fires took about 250,000 acres out in central South Dakota. In 1974, in Fall River County and Custer County, there was a big fire called the Argyle Fire, which really stressed out the firefighters with the dry conditions and multiple fires across the area. The largest fire to date in the state of South Dakota is the Jasper Fire in the year 2000. Over 83 acres of ponderosa pines were burnt during that fire. Just last year, there was the Schroeder Fire, where a fire started in a residential subdivision just a few minutes outside of town on Nemo Road. The winds picked up and that burned over 2,000 acres and got kind of close to some of the subdivisions on the west side of Rapid City. Fortunately, the firefighters did an amazing job and the loss was minimal. I just remember going outside of my office that day, looking to the west and seeing the fire right there and thinking, boy, if it just heads straight this way, we could be in danger. So I guess the only thing I can say is, well, we don't have hurricanes and we ain't got alligators.
In our lives, there are pros and cons to doing anything. So what are the pros and cons of moving to Rapid City and South Dakota? Hey everybody, it's Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. I did a pro and con video about 5 years ago, and it's one of my most watched videos to date. So I decided it was probably time for me to update that. And back then, I didn't have a tool that I have now, and that is ChatGPT. So I asked AI, what are the top 10 pros and the top 10 cons of living in Rapid City? And at the end, I've got a couple of my own additions to add from conversations I've had from people moving to the area for the past 5 years. Con number 1, harsh winters. I mean, right? South Dakota's in the north. We have winter. We've got snow. We've got ice. Hey, just last week it was negative 20 degrees. And today, what we can have later is 60 degrees. If you're moving from, say, Southern California, being in winter is a lot different than you're used to. And it might be a huge consideration for not moving to South Dakota because of that fact. However, I did a recent video about the weather patterns in our state compared to a lot of other ones around, and we're not even in the top 10 snowiest or coldest states of the nation. But if you don't like the sound of snow and below zero temperatures, South Dakota ain't the place for you. Pro number 1, affordable cost of living. If you watched last week's video, you know this really depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from a Midwest state like Missouri or a Southeast state like Alabama, the cost of living in our area is actually more expensive than it is in their area. However, generally, our cost of living is cheaper than the national average and the metropolitan areas a lot of people are moving from. In Rapid City, our average home price in 2024 was $400,000, which, if you're coming from a huge area where $1 million home is kind of normal, not a big deal. However, if you're coming from an area where a similar home is selling for $250,000, it might be a little bit more of a reach to come to our area. Con number 2, limited urban amenities. Now, because of our remoteness and not having a really big city around us for 5 hours everywhere, we have a lot of people coming to our area for services. You'll find your normal box stores like Target and Best Buy, but it isn't like downtown Denver. You've got all the shopping and sports and all the things to do down there. I've had a few people that moved here from larger areas to be with family, and they decided, you know what, there's just nothing to do here. And they moved away to a bigger location to be part of more of a vibrant city. Pro number 2, no state income tax.
Double the taxes, triple the taxes, squeeze every last drop out of those insolent musical peasants.
This is a huge factor for people moving here, especially when you're in a state that charges 10+% for their income tax. I had one gentleman moving here that wanted to establish residency here before he finished selling his business because the savings on income tax to the state would save him thousands and thousands. It's nice when you're doing your yearly income tax that you don't have to worry about the state of South Dakota on top of your federal IRS taxes. Con number 3, a conservative political climate. Now, I know many of you may consider this a pro. A lot of people that have moved into our area have come because of that fact. But there are those that feel that South Dakota can be a little bit too hard-nosed red conservative, maybe not as moderate as they'd like it to be, especially on issues such as abortion, LGBTQ rights, and like marijuana. In fact, that is one of the reasons people are moving out of the state, is because they are not happy with how the politics are in the state of South Dakota. Pro number 3, abundant sunshine. We have in our area, on average, about 260 days of sun or partial sun during every year. Of course, we've got our rainy days and our cloudy days and our stormy days, but it seems like if that's been going on for more than a week, we're looking around going, where is the sun? Even when it's bitter cold outside, we'll have the bright sun shining, making it feel a lot cheerier and happier than other places. In fact, a number of years ago, the nickname on the South Dakota state flag was the Sunshine State, before Florida stole it. I know other people living like in Kalispell, Montana, which is kind of in a bowl there with a lot of water around Glacier National Park. And they are mentioning that it's always cloudy during the wintertime. Con number 4, construction and potholes. Because of the before mentioned winters, we only have a few months during the year to get road construction done. So it seems like April, May hits, all the cones start going up, and things start getting really tough around town. Now, obviously, there's some great stuff here in the sense of they're always working on I-90. It always seems to be a great road to travel on. And as you travel to different roads in the country, you'll probably notice that we have pretty decent roads as you're traveling through the state of South Dakota. And a lot of the main roads in Rapid City are pretty decent shape. Many of the residential roads, not so much. A lot of potholes or a lot of filled potholes everywhere, making the whole thing really, really bumpy. Plus, it seems like every other year they're working on the railroad crossings and some of the main streets in town, and they're still bad even today. There's a joke going around that the state animal in South Dakota is the construction code. Thing number 4, nature and natural attractions. With the Black Hills being in our backyard, the Badlands being an hour away, Rapid Creek running right through Rapid City, and a couple of biking and hiking hills and trails within the city limits, there are a plethora of nature activities and opportunities around close by. Whether you love to bike or hike or like winter sports like snow skiing or snowmobiling, you're never far away from those kind of opportunities in Rapid City and the Black Hills. In fact, we're within an hour's drive of 5 national parks, including Mount Rushmore, and 2 state parks, including Custer State Park with Needles Highway and the Wildlife Loop, where you see a lot of buffalo, and Angostura Reservoir, which is one of the largest lakes in our area with a lot of sand-covered beaches on the shore. Con number 5, lower average income. For whatever reason, it seems like the wages in Rapid City have always been a little low, with the excuse of, well, yeah, you're near the Black Hills and this is where you live kind of thing. I talked with some people who work at some of the larger corporations in town who mentioned that the pay here is a little bit less than they might get other places. Now, I know that's all built on cost of living, etc., but you'll find that our average wage here in Rapid City is about $52,000, which is lower than the national average. With the increased home prices in our area, the increased cost of groceries and gasoline and everything else, it gets really tough with someone on an hourly wage closer to minimum wage to afford housing. Pro number 5, a low unemployment rate. While the wages may be a little bit lower than the nation, Rapid City has an unemployment rate of 3.1%, which is considerably less than the national average. And as things have been growing in Rapid City, they are projecting a future job growth of 35% within our area. Places such as Eldon Air Force Base, the City of Rapid City, Black Hills Energy, Walmart and Sam's Club, and the Monument Health System are some of the biggest employers in Rapid City. Due to the trade radius I mentioned earlier, we also have great opportunities in the services such as banking, accounting, other similar services. And since the Black Hills is a huge tourist industry, we have lots of opportunities in the hospitality fields, restaurants, and seasonal help for a lot of the attractions around the area. Con number 6, limited diversity. If you check the demographics of Rapid City and South Dakota, you'll find there's a lot of white folk. Due to Ellsworth Air Force Base, we do have a lot more diversity that kind of comes and goes. And due to our proximity to a couple of Native American reservations, we do have a population of Native Americans. And there's also some Chinese and Mexicans around if you know where to find those communities. Pro number 6, no traffic. The average one-way commute time in Rapid City is about 15 minutes, which is shorter than the national average of 30 minutes. Considerably shorter than some of the metropolitan areas, which can be hour to 2 hours of travel time. And most of the time when you're driving through town, it's not like bumper to bumper, car to car. You're moving along at the speed limit, except for certain times in the morning when people are going to work, lunchtime around some of the restaurants in downtown areas, and when all those high schoolers get out of school. Plus, things get really congested during the summertime when construction starts happening. For some reason, they decide to work on all the major arteries at once. One year, it seemed like you couldn't get anywhere in town without rolling through some construction. That can really back things up, it seems like. One time, though, I was complaining about having to wait 3 stoplights to get through a light. And my brother-in-law, who's lived in Los Angeles, said, dude, that just isn't traffic. Con number 7, wind and hail. It's very rare that the wind is not moving at least a little bit at some time during the year. Kind of average in the summer getting to about 8 miles an hour. But in the spring and fall especially, as the weather is moving in and out, winds can be up to 30 miles an hour for even a couple days pretty regularly. And during thunderstorms and blizzards, those winds have been known to gust up to 60 and even 70 miles per hour. And while we don't have hurricanes and limited tornadoes over here by the Black Hills, we have hail. It seems like every year we have one hail event where a huge hailstorm comes through a part of the Black Hills and does some significant damage to cars and houses and everything around. Fortunately, that doesn't decimate anybody and leave anybody homeless, and that's why you have to make sure you have good insurance, but it's still something you need to be aware of. Hail, it happens. Pro number 7, a strong sense of community. Because really, we're a rural area. We've got a warm Midwest hospitality feeling about our area, especially in some of the smaller towns. If you were to move into some of the smaller towns, they have a very wonderful community, such as Hermosa and Bellefouche. You can get together and they have community events, things that happen there. One of the main things I've heard as I've talked with my clients about why they moved to Rapid City and what they loved about Rapid City was how nice everybody was. Of course, there are some bad apples in the bunch. Overall, they're very impressed with the friendliness of most everybody, saying hi as you walk in the store, acknowledging each other as you walk on the biking path, all those kind of things. I was with one client while we're doing the final walkthrough. The neighbors came over, introduced themselves, told them all about the area, and told them, yeah, give us a call if you ever need anything. We're here for you. My people were quite surprised about how that worked because they were like, yeah, usually at our house, you walk in the door and shut the door, you don't even talk to anyone. Con number 8, sparse population density. The entire state of South Dakota is under 1 million people. I think we're about 925,000 right now, which to provide you some context, if you take 3 South Dakotas, you can put all of them all within the Denver metropolitan area. With over 77,000 square miles in South Dakota, that's about 12 people per square mile. In Rapid City, we have a population density of about 1,500 people per square mile, which is considerably less than, say, New York City, which is about 29,000 people per square mile. Some people might consider this a pro, but with fewer per square miles, we have fewer opportunities, amenities, all those type of things here in Rapid City. You can't even start to compare the vibrancy of Rapid City to New York, Denver, or San Francisco. Pro number 8, we've got a rich cultural heritage. Downtown Rapid City has a whole bunch of museums and art areas and art galleries showcasing not only the Wild Wild West and American Indians, but also the Black Hills Railroads, Black Hills Gold Rush, and the farming and ranching life in the state of South Dakota. Con number 9, limited public transportation. Rapid City is not really a walkable city. We're starting to get more apartments and condominiums downtown, but even the grocery stores are a number of blocks away from there, so it would be tough to just walk down to the grocery store. We do have a smaller public bus system that takes you around town, and of course we've got taxis and Ubers, but we're not big enough for any kind of train system or anything like that. So while you can get around town with public transportation systems, it's so much easier with how spread out Rapid City is if you just have your own vehicle here in town. Pro number 9, diverse employment opportunities. Mentioned a few of these in the unemployment rate pro that I was talking about earlier, but Rapid City has plenty of employment opportunities across many sectors, including retail, healthcare, finance, and a little bit of manufacturing. We don't have a whole lot of manufacturing here in town, but there are a few opportunities, and some of the higher tech jobs is something that the city is working on getting more in town. Another of the big employment sectors is construction and truck driving. With Rapid City growing and building more and more new construction homes, plus current homeowners remodeling that has a 2.75 interest rate, it does make sense for them to upgrade to a 7% interest rate. Plus, all these places looking for someone to transport materials to and fro. If you have experience in any of these fields, you should have a pretty easy time finding a job. Con number 10, small town mentality. Now, Rapid City isn't as small as the town I grew up in. Tyler had about 2,500 people, and there were actually articles in the newspaper where they talked about what so-and-so was doing and who brought who over and who had over, that kind of thing. So that's like super small town. Rapid City is a little bit bigger than that, but everybody still kind of knows everybody. Not going to get by with some of the big business things you could probably get by with in other areas, especially with our Midwest nice going on. People know when you're trying to oversell them, and sometimes that just doesn't go over very well. And with the small town mentality comes the I don't really want things to change. I want things to remain the way they are. Remember when things were good like this in the good old days? Those type of things that sometimes hinder some progressive moving forward. Pro number 10, scenic neighborhoods. No matter where you are in Rapid City with the proximity to the Black Hills, it seems like you have some nice views either from in your neighborhood or not far away. Whether you have a nice drive down West Boulevard or a drive right by Canyon Lake Park, or even a view of the Black Hills and business in Rapid Valley, Rapid City is a scenic place to live, work, and play. Now it's time for me to add one more pro, one more con that people talk about, not that ChatGPT just did. Con number 11, travel kind of sucks. Now, a lot of people love the fact that our airport is just a small airport. It's easy to get into and out of. But when you fly out of Rapid City, you're just flying to a hub to get to the next place. There are a number of direct flights, but for the most part, travel to Rapid City Airport is kind of expensive because of the trips that you have to take. Now, if you're a true Midwesterner, you're like, 16-hour drive, I can drive that, no problem. And in the summertime, this is usually not a problem. But as we get into wintertime, and you never know what's going to happen with the weather, the roads get slick, the roads get snowy, you can't see in front of you, travel will be a whole lot more difficult during that time. Plus, if you want to escape that cold and go south, you really have to go quite a ways to get to somewhere warmer. Sometimes in those cold spells, Texas is even pretty chilly. I'm not sure you want to drive all the way down to Miami, Florida. Pro number 11, we've got all 4 seasons. Now, some people may not like this. They want to be 80 degrees all the time, like it is in Hawaii. The weather in an area is something that not only keeps us on our toes, but makes life interesting. Plus, we really enjoy the changing of leaves during the fall, snow during Christmas. Then we kind of manage to get through January, February, March before spring comes on again. And then it's so beautiful in the summer that's not overly hot that we can go places and enjoy life. But be prepared for any kind of weather. South Dakota is known for being in one of the most unpredictable weather patterns in the nation.
Is Rapid City, South Dakota an affordable place to live? Or maybe more importantly, is Rapid City the place that you want to spend your hard-earned cash living in? I've tried to do a cost of living video every year for the past number of years from when I started in 2020. And as you know, since the pandemic, things have changed quite a bit. So if you're looking for a good laugh or maybe a good cry, take a look at that 2020 video to see where things were back in the day and compare it to how we're going to talk about things going further today. I always like to start these videos with the calculator tool, the cost of living calculator tool you can find. You just type in cost of living calculator. There's a whole bunch of different ones. They'll all have kind of a different version of how they calculate them based upon what parameters they're using. But you'll get a pretty good idea of your city versus Rapid City in these calculators. So for instance, if we typed in Denver, you can see here that we're living in Rapid City is a little bit cheaper than it is living in Denver. I like to use Denver because it's our closest metropolitan area. But if you come from other parts of the Midwest, say Springfield, Missouri, you'll find that it's more expensive to live in Rapid City. Now let's talk about the amount of money you make, the wage you can expect while living in South Dakota if you're going to be working in the state of South Dakota. In the US, the average salary is about $65,000, with Massachusetts bringing in the highest salary of about $80,000. In South Dakota, we're not dead last, but we're also below the average at about $53,000 for your average salary in South Dakota. So what kind of house can you rent or buy in the state of South Dakota and in Rapid City with that wage that we're talking about? According to apartments.com, the average rent in this nation is about $1,750. Here in South Dakota, that average rent is about $1,125. If we look at a local property management site, you'll find that you can get into an older style 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment for around $850, $900. As you get into 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, that gets to be closer to $1,600 to $800. And as you get into newer homes with up to 4 bedrooms, you can expect to spend over $2,500 per month on that property. Prior to 2020, you could usually buy a property for cheaper than you could rent one. However, that's not the case anymore. As property values have increased and those interest rates are still around, hanging around that 7%, it's really tough to find a property that you can buy for cheaper than your rent. In 2024, in Rapid City proper, the average single-family home sold for about $400,000. Now, these are just single-family homes, not considering condos or manufactured homes, and they sold anywhere from $80,000 to $2.6 million. If you consider buying that average $400,000 home, that at a 7% interest rate, which is kind of where things are right now for a 30-year mortgage, that puts you at about $2,661 for a monthly payment, and that does not include taxes and insurance, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If you manage to find a smaller property for around $250,000, which there's a few available, but it gets kind of tough in that category, at that 7% mortgage is about $1,660 for your monthly payment, not including taxes and insurance. If you want to do some remodeling on your property, how much would that cost in the state of South Dakota? For your average remodel, and we're talking, a bigger remodel, not just, changing out the cabinets, we're talking about a $52,000 bill for the country. That same average is about $39,000 in the state of South Dakota. Whether you rent or you buy, chances are you're going to have to pay for some utilities. Fortunately, South Dakota is pretty good on the cost of utilities according to the national average. Move.com is organizing these utilities by not only electricity and gas, but also internet, phone, and streaming services. And the only 3 states where you'll pay less utilities is Minnesota, Illinois, and Wisconsin. And fortunately for you, if you are a remote worker, South Dakota has some of the cheapest internet service prices in the nation. With the wind and hail that we get in the state of South Dakota, our home insurance prices aren't really anything to write home about. South Dakota is the 11th most expensive state when it comes to hail insurance premiums. Now, this home insurance graph, I'm not sure where they're grabbing their information from. It does seem like they are a little high compared to what I've seen. For instance, we have State Farm insurance on our house with a lower deductible, so it's not too bad, and we're paying about $2,000 per year on our $300,000-ish home. And then there's those dang property taxes. Rocket Mortgage states that South Dakota is number 35 on the list of the nation. You can expect to spend 1.1 to 1.3% of your purchase price of taxes every year. We're considering that $400,000 average sale price in Rapid City. 1.2% of that is $4,800. So that's $400 a month you would pay for your property taxes. Add that to that payment for your mortgage. So since we're talking about taxes, let's throw in income and sales taxes. The benefits of living in South Dakota is the 0 sales tax rate. It's nice when you're doing your federal income tax that you don't have to worry about doing your state income tax as well. See here across the country, you could be spending as much as 13% of your income to the state, or only 2.5% to our neighbors to the north. As far as sales tax go, we have a 4.2% sales tax across the state, and then every city usually has about a 2%, averaging about 1.91%. In our state, you're paying sales tax on pretty much everything. All the services, all the goods, whether it's clothes, whether it's food, whatever it is, you will be paying sales tax on everything to make up for the 0% income tax. There are a few exceptions here. Things like buying a car, I think is a 3% sales tax rate. The contractors are charging a 2% excise rate on their services. And there's a few more exceptions that we won't go into detail here on. But for the most part, if you are buying something, you pretty much can expect to pay a sales tax on that. And in some locations, there is a 1% tourist type tax. So motels, some of the food services also have this 7% tax. But as you can see from this combined rate graph, our combined rate falls within the cheapest 20 states of the country.
Now it's time to talk about groceries. So for reference, this is February 10th, 2025. I'm sitting in the Family Fare parking lot, which is a regional grocery store. We're going to go in and check out some standard grocery items in there. They tend to be a little more of your middle-of-the-road type prices. Your Walmart is pretty much more the cheapest, and then Safeway is a little more expensive. So let's go in and check out some prices.
Donuts. Doritos. What's your favorite kind of ice cream?
All right, now let's shift gears and talk about your car. If you're looking to buy a used car in the state of South Dakota, you will find it's one of the most expensive places to buy a car. My assumption would be, since we're sharing with North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, that it has a lot to do with the distance and the remoteness of our area. Now that you've got your car, you've got to insure that thing, right? South Dakota, we're about the middle of the pack when it comes to full coverage auto insurance rates. However, if you're looking for just deductible insurance, we're pretty cheap in the nation, $376 for an annual policy. What about car registrations? The only thing you need to do is get new tags every year, and that's about $100 per car. With our kids' cars, we got about 5 cars on our bill, a boat and a trailer, and that's about $575 a year for the tags. Every few years, they come up with a new plate, and of course, the premiums go up a little bit when you have a new plate year. Aside from the car registration, making sure you have insurance, we don't have any smog tests, we don't have any required inspections. You don't have to do anything else with your car except for those 2 things. And of course, you got to put gas in those cars, right? Gas in our area right now is about $3 per gallon, and it's been hovering between the just under $3 to $3.33, $40 per gallon for the past year or so. Now, there's not a lot of competition in Rapid City. Usually, if one gas station is at that price, the majority of them will be as well. Safeway does have some discounts if you're a Safeway member, and it's about 10 cents cheaper over at Sam's Club. Just don't go on Saturday afternoon. All right, let's take a quick break here, and I want to give you a real-world example of what you can expect to spend on a property here in Rapid City based on our own experiences. A couple years ago, we bought a 1,300 square foot home for our 2 kids to rent basically from us, and we fixed it up. Now, this home was built in the 60s. We actually added some insulation in the attic, but the walls, it's not great for the insulation factor, and it still has the old windows and the old siding. That all being said, it's worth about $300,000 today, maybe a little bit less, but we'll use $300,000 to make it an easy number. At today's 7% interest rate on a 30-year note, that would be about $1,830 per month just for the mortgage. Taxes on this home are $31.57, so that's about $263 per month. And the insurance is about $1,000 per year, which is a pretty good rate. I'm not exactly sure how we got that, but there we go. So that's $83 per month. So today, just for the house, is $21.75 per month. Now let's add some utilities in here. Now, of course, how you keep your home, how warm you keep it, how cold you keep it is going to be different for you. So these are just guidelines to give you an idea of what they are paying, to give you a feel for what might be working for you. Fair warning, my daughter loves it cold, like ice cold. So they run their AC all the time in the summertime. So gas on this property, which is a hot water heater and the furnace, in the summer is about $20 per month, but in the winter it's closer to $120. So that averages about $75 per month. Electricity runs from $75 in the wintertime to $200 at the max in the summertime. So that's about $125 a month. Your water comes in about $90 per month, and that's water, sewer, and garbage. And if you throw in the internet, that's about $70 for a decent internet speed. That's total of $360 per month. Now, if we tack on their 2 cars, the insurance on one car is $970 a year, and the other $1,472 for full coverage insurance. You're looking at paying about $200 per month for your car insurance. Now, when it comes to groceries, we taught them how to cook, so they cook most nights for just the 2 of them, and so they do buy a lot of fresh produce. However, we buy our meat in bulk, so they take some of that from my freezer. They really come over and steal it from me. So all that being said, they spend about $400 per month on groceries in Rapid City. So adding up the mortgage, taxes, insurance, utilities, car insurance, and food grocery bill, you end up about $31.40 for your total monthly expenditures to live in that type of property. One of the things you might have noticed at the very beginning of the video when I did the screenshot of our cost of living versus Denver's is that the healthcare was in the red. A lot of the other expenses that we've been mentioning are considerably cheaper than a lot of the country. Healthcare is not one of those. We are currently ranked number 2 for the most expensive states in the nation for healthcare, and this is looking at the annual premiums, etc. Our ranking is not only second in the nation for most affordable overall, but also 4th and 5th in a number of other key factors when they're looking about affordability for healthcare. Because we only have one health system here in Rapid City, Monument Health, with some other smaller ones kind of there as well, the competition isn't that great. So my assumption would be that because the competition isn't great, you get higher prices, etc., etc. This expensive healthcare also translates into adult senior care. We're about $200 more than the national average on your assisted living facility average and also your private room. However, we're almost $2,000 more to get that home health aide to come to your house. Fortunately, the news gets a little bit better for your children's daycare. While it's still not cheap, the annual cost per child in South Dakota is about $6,700, which is the third cheapest in the nation, and that's considerably less than the $10,000 national average cost per child. And look at District of Columbia, $20,000 almost per child for daycare in that area. And talk about cheap things in our state, we are one of the lowest states for gym memberships, because that's what you needed, right? What about going out to eat? Downtown Independent Ale House has some amazing pizzas. They're about $15 to $16. And Old Chicago has some specialty pieces between $20 and $30 per pie. Your Chinese food is about $13 per entree. You can probably expect to spend $17 for a burger at the Firehouse or Murphy's. Or you can go to Five Guys and spend $11 on the burger and $5.50 on those fries. Expect to spend about $15 per entree on your Mexican restaurants, such as Que Pasa. Sears Steakhouse on West Main has steaks starting for $25, and Dakota Steakhouse off I-90 starts at about $30 per meal. We got a lot of really cool coffee shops downtown in Rapid City, and you can spend between $5 to $6 on your specialty coffee. The other thing that you'll find plenty of in Rapid City is craft beer. They have varying prices, so you actually have to go inside and not just check out online like I've been doing for the rest of this video. But when I've gone out to one of these places, we spend about $7 to $8 on a beer. What about entertainment in Rapid City? You can go to a play put on by Seraphim Theater, Catalyst Theater, or the Community Theater for about $30 a ticket. Attend the Black Hills Symphony for about $40 a ticket. Attend a concert at the Monument Civic Center starting at $75 depending on, who's performing. Go to a Rapid City Rush hockey game for $32 a ticket, and then check out Abby's, an alternative music scene. Concerts and music there start about $15 per person. My daughter is going there for a Taylor Swift sing-along. If you're looking for some fun in Rapid City, you can go ice skating at the indoor skating rink for $8 a day with a $6 rental, or swimming in one of the Rapid City pools for $8 a day as well. Speaking of swimming, check out Watigi Indoor Water Park, which is about $50 per day. Got a bunch of quarters laying around? Check out Press Start Arcade. Downstairs at the classic games, the 80s games that we grew up with, Pac-Man, Galactic, all the things. If speed is your thing, check out Flags and Wheels. For $7.50 for 5 minutes, you can race the go-karts, or check out the race carts for $17.50. If you're done with that, $25 gets you to playing paintball. There's also laser tag, arcade, and many other things. And since you're here in Rapid City, you're gonna go out into the Black Hills. The National Forest has an annual pass for $50 that covers all the parking areas, which normally costs like $6 per day, so usually pays for itself pretty quickly. An annual pass to South Dakota State Parks to get into Custer and Angostura is at $40 per year. Don't forget it costs $11 to park at Mount Rushmore, which also is an annual fee, so you can take your friends and family there all the time. Attractions such as Reptile Gardens is $25 for adults. You can go downhill skiing at Terry Peak for $75 for a lift ticket. You definitely got to check out Rushmore Tramway Adventures. You can buy a 5-ride pass to the Alpine Slides for $85. Things in the Rapid City and Black Hills area aren't as cheap as there used to be. And with the demand that we've had over the past couple of years, it's been a little more expensive to get into our area. The people that I've helped move from metropolitan areas are extremely happy to be here. They are saving money, they feel like they're not paying as much in taxes, and they feel like they have a little more freedom than they did in some of the more metropolitan areas. However, if you look at this chart, South Dakota comes in about number 20 on the cost of living index. A number of the Southeast states and the Midwest states that have a cheaper cost of living than the state of South Dakota. I hope this really gives you a great idea of where the cost of living is in Rapid City and South Dakota in 2025. Whether you're just thinking about maybe moving to the area or are considering a move to the Rapid City area, please check out my relocation guide, The 13 Reasons Why You Should Move to Rapid City. I'll put that link in the description below. Homes in Rapid City, South Dakota. They cost how much? I know you think South Dakota homes have got to be cheap here, right? Well, maybe not so much. Now, if we're having this conversation back in 2010, we may be having a different conversation. But since the craziness of the pandemic, home prices in our area have gone up 30% since that time. So let's jump on the computer and see what you can expect to purchase in the Rapid City and surrounding area for your buck. All right, here we are on my website. We're going to start with the under 200,000 crowd. Don't you get yourself excited here with this 15,000. These are ones to be moved, so you're not actually buying any real estate here. A couple of things to note right away that we'll look at is you have the beds and baths right here with the square footage. You can see that immediately. And then here we can tell if it's had a decrease in price at all. As you can probably imagine, under 200,000, we're not going to get into much. A lot of mobile homes. Now, these mobile homes, like this first one here, obviously pretty rough. These mobile homes are not financeable through normal mortgage means. You're going to have to go to a bank and get a bank loan or cash. And a lot of times, of course, you're paying $500 or so per month on lot rent. So I don't usually talk much about those because a lot of times they're not viable options. Here's the first home that's actually a single family home. A little one. It's only, what, 600, 700 square feet. Probably not going to be financeable because of some of the issues with the house. Yeah, that's not going to, it's definitely going to take some work for this property. Another manufactured home here, more mobile homes. Here's a condo, an older condo that you could get into, 1,100 square foot condo. Another condo here, 736 square feet. And here we get into the another 4-bedroom, single family home. But again, going to need some work. That's some nice wallpaper going on right there. As I mentioned before, if it's under $200,000, there's probably some work that needs to be done to the property, making it not financeable with FHA or VA or your South Dakota housing. So it makes it hard for first-time home buyers that need those kind of loan programs. This one you can see has dropped about $10,000, so it was on the market for $200,000 originally. All right, now we get into the $200,000 to $300,000 crowd. And you can see here, look at these are some newer construction homes here. These are smaller, 570 foot square feet, 1 bedroom, some really affordable properties, but that are going up here recently. It's a brand new system, a brand new subdivision that's being built. But obviously you don't have a whole lot of square foot in these properties, but you do have some options in that price point if that's what you're looking for, that will work for you. This one here on Haynes Court has 4 bedrooms, 1,700 square feet, and even a 2-car garage. Let's take a look at this. Looks like this is a pretty decent little property. I'm guessing the 2 bedrooms downstairs might not be to code, but I've got a big window here, so maybe they are. And gives you a feel of that property for $220,000. As we get higher in price, these affordable homes are a little bit bigger in square feet. A lot of them being built. 1,000 square feet. 1,500 square feet here. They replaced the floors. Some interesting choices there for sure. As we get above the $250,000 mark, what we're getting into is more nicer homes, more move-in ready than the ones we've looked at previously. Yeah, we get at the outside. What's like the inside look like? We're not gonna go inside. Oh my God! Come on. There we go. Yeah, so this is a really nicely done little property. So you're gonna spend more for something that's probably move-in ready. 912 square feet, which is kind of common for this side of town. Indiana, southeast side of town, Elm Street. You pretty much can be staying southeast. This one on Galaxy is north side of town. Kind of a nice little neighborhood up in here. Tri-level style. Yep, little small little place, relatively decent. Sweet Bars in the Valley. North 39th is actually on the west side of town. 1,500 square feet. Built in 1954, so it might have some older features. Looks like it's pretty decent property there. So to be on the west side for $280 is not a bad not a bad deal. Here's some newer townhomes out in Box Elder. This one's in Blackhawk, another tri-level. Had a decent price reduction of $7,500. Most of these you see are going to be under 2,000 square feet at the most. Here in Yorktown has got some newer construction going on here as well. This will be mostly finished upstairs, but nothing finished in the basement. So there are some options for you if you're looking to build under $300,000. Some smaller options out in Box Elder mostly. It's a nice condo. I've been in this one. This one is really kind of a cool place because it's just north of West Boulevard, kind of in center part of town. Nice little condo. Got some older features in it, but certainly a nice little condo. Here's another West Side property, $300,000. Built in 1951, 1,100 square feet. And that's kind of what you get on the West Side. You get a little more older features when you're buying a property on the West Side for under $300,000. All right, now we get to $300,000 to $400,000 property. Here's a 1,400 square foot new construction in a newer subdivision called Apple Valley. Smaller lots, but you have some options to choose from, and plenty of new stuff going on out that way. That's on the way to the airport, past Anderson Road. Harrelson, that's that Apple Valley again. This another newer construction. Here's another one for 2,000 square feet for $313,000. This probably went up because they did more work to it or something than originally. This is a condo that you can live on Farewell Hills, $315,000. And we're getting closer to 2,000 square foot properties. Patton Street is out in the valley. Still nothing sublime, but certainly something that you could live in. Palmer Way is on newer construction. 3-year-old, it says. 1,600 square feet. You still got the newer construction feel to this one. But you should have like the grass already done and those kind of things taken care of. More newer construction going on. Newer construction here. Yep, we've got a lot of new construction rolling on in this price point. We'll skip ahead a little bit to get higher in our price points. 1,800 square foot new construction. We're getting bigger square feet for $350,000. Here's one in the valley on Titan. You can see we got a lot of properties right now that are on the outside of Rapid City. We're not really getting in town. We're in Box Elder. A lot of new construction going on. See, even this one in Virginia, that's north of Rapid City a little bit. There's a townhome that's out in the valley. Skip ahead another 6 pages. I'll jump back a little bit here. More new construction. That's more new construction happening in this area too. This is newer construction, 2,000 square feet. It's got the sod in, looks like. This is in Northern Lights, which is just, if you know where Waikiki is and that little selection of apartment of motels just off exit 61, that's where this is located. All right, as we get into Rapid City, here's on the southeast side of town. This is a newer townhome. 1,500 square feet, 1,600 square feet. But you can see it's down $2,700. That's kind of what happens in January and February sometimes. Okay, the Gladys Street is on the north side of town, 1,800 square feet. It's got a bigger lot. Oh my. Come on, people. Take better pictures. New construction. This is Healing Way. That's off Mount Rushmore Road, just out of town. $400,000 for Sweetbriar. You're getting more square footage, 2,300 square foot. Looks like it's been redone. This is probably, what does this see here? 1971 property, but you can tell it has been all redone. All right, now we're between the 400 and 500,000 mark, which, as you will be able to tell, we're going to get more inside Rapid City as we get some nicer properties and a few more on the west side, like this one on Alamo Drive. Got some nice updates, but it is a 1960s home, but they've done a good job updating this one. And this is just right off, kind of right on the corner, kind of Sheridan Lake Road and Jackson Boulevard. Here's a 1 acre property here. You're going to have a little bit more of a Built in 1963, so you're gonna have a little bit less updates. Yeah, a few more original things in that property. Black Powder is a newer property, 2,000 square foot out in Rapid Valley. Tinton is Rapid Valley. Going out to Blackhawk, you can have a little 1 acre property, so a little more land. Looks like they've done a nice job updating this property. We're getting into the 420s. I like this Fieldstone area. Built in, 2012? Yes, a newer build, but got a nice property. Split levels, for a lot of split levels in Rapid City, they're cheaper to build. So we're trying to make things, of course, as affordable as possible. So you're going to see a lot of split levels. This one's kind of downtown-ish. Kind of West Boulevard style. Built in 1950s. Got the original wood floors. Don't have the original look of some of that property. Box Elder. Lodge Street is on the west side of town. Field View. Nicer, another southeast type of property. Built in 2005. Another larger property in Blackhawk. So if you go out in Blackhawk, you get a little more square foot for your money. That's for 440. It's new construction here in Box Elder. Pop to the last page. Somerset. There's a lot of nice newer properties in Somerset. I like this neighborhood. It's very subdivision-y, suburban kind of feel. You're getting 2,900 square feet for about $500,000. The Somerset Drive is in the southwest part of town. 1980s, so you can see the 80s stuff going on here. If you're looking for more space, here's a barn dominium on about 5 acres, 1,400 square feet. That's on Antelope Creek Road, which is north of Box Elder. Same here with 225th. You're in quite a few acres, but you're considerably out of town. Chateau Ridge, west side of town. This one's 3,000 square feet, built in 2000. So as you can see so far, even $500,000 isn't buying you a whole lot of really cool, nice, fine things. We're getting bigger, but a lot of the bigger homes that we're looking at under $500,000 are just kind of your basic construction, not a lot of really cool things or upgrades in those properties. So hopefully that'll change a little bit as we get above the 500 price point. All right, so West Side Mountain View Drive, 3,000 square feet. Cool outside stuff. Great, a picture of the dining room table. Okay, moving on. 9th Street is in the West Boulevard area. Yeah, you got a lot of that feel from the 60s. That 224th, that's more square footage, 80 acres. 2,000 square foot out in the valley. Misty Woods Lane is in Auburn Hills, which is north of the mall. $2,800 square foot built back in 2011. Wild Horse is a little bit more square footage on some little acreage, right? 0.60, yep. That is down off Highway 79. You're kind of in the prairie a little bit right here, but kind of a cool little subdivision down there if you don't mind a 15, 20-minute drive to work every day. Now we get into Red Rock Meadows. This is off Sheridan Lake Road, and if you're on on Google and it says Colonial Pine Hills, this is that area. So you'll have a lot of cool properties in that. A lot of people like this area. You're kind of close to the hills, but you're not far from town either. 2,500 square feet, built in 2010. Yeah, you've got some of the cool newer things going on with the metal stuff. Nugget Gulch is kind of a cool area because you're just off to the east of Sheridan Lake Road. You're still in town, but you've kind of got this cool feel in the neighborhood. A lot of trees. Drop 15 grand to $554 right now. Valley West is over by Stevens High School, up a hill. Are located on the hill, so you're going to have that hill to go up, but if we ever get to the inside here, we might not. There we go. Oh, looks like some 80s carpet for sure. Built in the 80s? 2000. Yeah, it's old 2000 carpet, I guess. That's pretty sad I didn't notice that. Another one on Dunsmore, that's also up in Sheridan Lake Road. Right, that's in Red Rocks, 3,300 square feet. You built in 2015. Here's another one down south of Rapid City off 79 in the Black Cap area. 1.68 acres, so a little more square footage. You got the ranch with full basement. Built in 2006. Vinecliff is a nice southeast property, newer southeast property. 2,600 square foot. Elks Crossing, which is right next to Elks Country Estates, next to the golf course down there. Got some newer features. Nicer flooring. Gas fireplace. Kind of giving you an idea of what you can get outside of town. This is on Swiss, which is about 45 minutes from town. Definitely your log cabin feel in Edelweiss Mountain Estates. You got some other acreage, some privacy, but it's going to be about 45-minute drive to get here along a curvy gravel road. But if this is what you're looking for a cabin, this will do the trick. What is that? 560? Is that what I said? 600. Right at 600. Chapel Valley, people really like Chapel Valley. You're in town, but you're surrounded by a lot of trees, Black Hills trees. You kind of feel like you're your own little Black Hills area. Built in 1975. Chapel Valley does have its own pool, so you are paying a HOA fee down here as well. A couple $100 a month, I believe. All right, 3 acres, $600,000. Here we go. This is outside of town on 385. It's Pactola Estates, 2.5 acres. Be kind of a cool place if you want to spend a lot of time at Pactola, which we like to do. Oh, I like that deck. That's kind of nice. Ooh. I only get one shot of the inside. Seriously? There we go. Oh, lots of paneling. Oh, okay. All right. And now let's head into Dark Canyon Road. As you're going out Rimrock Highway, we get next to the river right here. Down 25 grand, 0.45 acre. Just kind of some really cool, architectural cool homes out here. A little bit different than your run-of-the-mill homes in Rapid City. All right, let's see what we can find between the $600,000 and $700,000 price point in Rapid City. These are some newer builds in Shepherd Hills, which is over by Menards, and they do have some incentives. You can save about 40 grand on this property, but right now listed at about 650, 2,200 square feet. Another new construction here or there. Southwest home on Motherlode, 3-car garage, built in 2009. Yeah, so this is going out Sheridan Lake Road. You're right here in this little subdivision right here. Newer construction out Elks Country Estates. Kind of gives you a feel what you can build out there. 2,700 square feet, $670,000. Have a few more fineries in it than others, I imagine. Just on a regular city lot. As you get out of town here on Nemo Road, this is where you get some more of your hills type properties. 3.13 acres. 1987 build. Got some of that architecture from back then, but looks like these are newer cabinets. That's not 80s cabinets at all. So they've done some updates here for sure. Quebec Court gets you back into Red Rock Meadows, built in 2008. Here in Red Rock Meadows, you're going to have a few more restrictive covenants than some other places we looked at, especially under the $500,000 mark. You might not be able to park your camper anywhere nearby, have to go put that away. Things like that. Targhee is High Point. This is a newer subdivision on the other side of Red Rocks. 3,000 square foot, built in 2019. Got some nice views for sure. Pinecone Lane, 1.5 stories in the Black Hills, 1.2 acres. $3,000 square foot, lots of wood. There's a newer construction in Minnesota, down by the hospital. 3,500 square foot, 3,400. Yeah, right near the hospital. There we go. Big and open. All right, and we're getting to $700,000 to $800,000 now. Matterhorn is another one there out there in Edelweiss Mountain Estates. Again, as we mentioned, this one looks like it's been a newer one. This has been updated. 2,400 square feet, built in 2023, so it's a brand new one. So you got lots of big windows. $725,000. Snowberry, that's in South Countryside South. I really like this subdivision as well. Half an acre, 4,400 square feet. Built in the 96s. I might have been in this home back in the 90s when I was doing hardwood floors. We spent a lot of time in the subdivision putting in these hardwood floors. 1 acre AR Ranch Estates. If you watch my new construction video, I did a tour of this subdivision for new construction in this area. It's north of Rapid City along Deadwood Avenue, along a road called Erickson Ranch Estates. A little more prairie-ish, but you do have some views of the hills in the distance. On the golf course, Red Rocks. This is a bit up from Red Rocks Meadows. This is Red Rock Estates. $750,000 for 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, 0.25 acres on 3,700 square feet. If you're looking for West Boulevard, you can also spend some money on West Boulevard. Historic. This is what, 1911? So you've got the historic things going on. With a couple garage. They did do some updates in this property. Yeah. So it's not all old stuff. But you definitely have the wide trim and just the look of an old-fashioned home. For those people that like that, for $765,000. Panamera Circle for $800,000. This is kind of up on top of the hill. So you're looking over Rapid City. Big deck. Interesting chandeliers. Yeah, good view. I like the big windows. 4,800 square foot for about $800,000. Only one house available in the $900,000 to $1 million price point, and that's on Google Drive. I've dealt with loggy construction before. This is the villas at the Villaggio. If you go Catron Boulevard over from Mount Rushmore Road, or excuse me, over from Sheridan Lake Road, you'll get into this area. These guys do a very good job building their properties. Some very cool things they usually add in them as well. 4,000 square feet, 0.330 acres. All right, if we have over $1 million to spend, we got 32 properties to look at. 5 acres. I'm not even sure where this is. JW Drive. Where we got here? Oh, okay, I got you. So here's Mount Rushmore Road. You're going up the hill here. This Tower Road, this is where the hospital is, kind of right here. This Tower Road takes you up here. Skyline Drive's coming here. There's a new subdivision right here. Kind of a cool location for sure. Yeah, you got some classic stuff going on here. Bitterroot is back to Countryside South, built in 2000. Natural home hardwood floors. 0.70 acres. I sold a property in Bitterroot Court before. It was a really nice area, especially with the backyard. I had a nice backyard back in there. Cloud Peak Drive is the High Point Ranch subdivision I was talking about. This is the other side of Red Rocks, like I mentioned before. Cliff Drive. Okay, so here we are, southwest part of town, kind of back behind Canyon Lake, and it's just a lot of a hillsy feel back here, 1.57 acres. Built in 1972, and that's when everything was built up in that day. So you were still in town, but you feel like you're up in the Black Hills. Lots of cool subdivisions up in that area. You definitely have the 70s beams, 70s architecture going on. Covenant Drive is basically across the street from the Villaggio. Bilovis is a state subdivision off Catron Boulevard. Kind of added a little more chutzpah here on this property. Look at these waterfall granite countertops. Ooh, inside gas fireplace. Yes, a few more fun stuff up in that range. Meadowview Court, 15 acres, 5,000 square feet. Got some views of the hills in the distance. Now we're talking. Got the somewhat rustic, but not all the way rustic, which I like. A little bit of wood is good, but I don't like everything wood. Built in 2002. This one here is... All right, we're off Nemo Road. Yeah, Nemo Road's here as you're coming out of town. And you're down this road, up and down to this spot right here. All right, anybody can handle that view, huh? I will take that. $1.5 million. Florman is in town, 6,800 square feet, big old house. Got city views. Built in 2000, so it's a newer build. Got some classic stuff going on. Yeah, there we go. What's that? 1.6 million basically. Par Place. View a map. Yes, so I thought Spring Creek Road. Down the Highway 16, here's Reptile Gardens. You go on to Neckrook Road, there's a bunch of homes in this area. These are kind of some cool properties. Really spread out. 7,500 square feet. Built in 94. This is another one where I might have been on. Oh, there's a few. On the hill next to the hospital is Alta Vista Drive. Kind of rolling up there. This is Highway 16 going out of town here. You got a pool. Everybody likes a pool. 4 acres, 2002 build. Definitely have the executive mansion feel going on right here. A lot of garages. Oh, 2 big ones down there, a couple of 9 ones up there. You'd have to buy more stuff just to fit in here, just for kicks. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, very contemporary. Cool looking things. 2.7 million, pretty much the most expensive home you can buy in Rapid City at the moment. As always, homes continue to come on and off the market, and you never know if that perfect home for you might just pop up. But hopefully this video gives you an idea of what you can expect to spend in the Rapid City and surrounding area, so you don't call me and say, hey, I want a 5-acre property in the Black Hills for $200,000, because that just doesn't exist. There's nothing like that new home smell. Are you thinking about maybe buying new construction in Rapid City in 2025? In this video, we're going to talk about all the different neighborhoods that are going on right now where you can buy a new construction home or potentially buy a lot that you can build your own home on with your builder. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about new construction in Rapid City in general. First of all, if you come from a bigger area, you're probably used to some big national names. D.R. Horton, Lennar. We really only have one national brand here, which is Hillsview Homes. This company is similar to some of your national builders, where it has a sales office, salespeople in the office try to help you, and a lot of different options for you to buy properties and a lot of different lots for you to put them on. So far, they've been pretty good to work with. If you'd like to work with me through the sale of the process, just mention to them when you're talking with them that you're working with me, and we'll get that all put together. The rest of the builders in town are mostly smaller local builders. They're still building spec homes, but they're building them in smaller amounts. They probably don't have a sales office, and sometimes it's hard to get information from them, like floor plans and all the specs that are involved, because sometimes builders are really good builders, but not necessarily good business people. And the majority of these builders are working with a real estate agent to help them list and sell their properties. The next thing to know about home building in Rapid City is that the majority of the homes are built to be affordable as possible. So there'll be a few things that aren't going to be included. The majority of the homes are only finished upstairs, leaving downstairs unfinished. Sometimes they may finish a bedroom in the basement to make it a 3-bedroom home. But for the most part, when you see the price, that does not include a finished basement. It also may not include things like the refrigerator and the stove. A lot of times you have to buy those things as well. A lot of people like a stairs going down the back deck. Also not part of a normal build. And any yard work is your responsibility. Any landscaping, any grass, any fences, all that stuff is yours to do. And then if you want to add a sprinkler system, you got to think about that as well. There are a few builders that are offering some landscaping, but for the most part, that's not normally included. I had one buyer that I had to remind him over and over again, nope, they're not doing the lawn. Nope, they're not doing the lawn. Nope, they're not doing the lawn. The other thing that you want to consider when you're buying new construction is what you're going to need inside. There will be no blinds. There'll be no window curtains. And of course, if you're buying a new house, you're probably going to want new furniture. These are all things to consider when buying a new construction. Although the price might be this, by the time you add your appliances, your washer and dryer, your fences, your landscaping, it can be considerably more money out of pocket after you close on the property. The majority of these builders have been around town for a while and have been building for a while. I've worked with a number of them and things have gone pretty well. There's a couple that we might need to watch based upon past experiences, but for the most part, you've got a local builder working in the local community, trying his best to help everybody involved. One of the downsides of the local builder is generally the price is the price. Unless he's got a house that's been sitting there for a long time and he starts reducing the price, if you don't buy it at the price they've got listed, chances are they'll just wait for someone else to come along. They usually also don't throw in things. Well, they'll have them throw in a bathroom install. Doesn't happen. If you want the bathroom install, they'll just add that to the price. However, Hillsview Homes, since it is a bigger organization, they will have sales where they have discounts. They'll offer rebates. Sometimes they'll offer lower interest rates if you go through their lenders. A lot of different things to help you buy into property. So sometimes you can get a pretty good deal if you land on the right sale. All right, let's get into the car. We're going to check out some subdivisions. I'm going to give you details such as prices in that area, acreages, and the size of most of the homes in the subdivision. The one thing I'm not going to talk about in this video are the different covenants, the rules, regulations, and restrictions for every subdivision. Some have HOAs that are a little more restrictive, especially in some of the higher end neighborhoods, and there's a couple that even have no covenants whatsoever. So if any of these subdivisions that we look at today interest you, reach out to me, let me know, I'll grab that information for you, send it your way. Now, let's go driving. All right, we're going to start on the very west side of the area and kind of move around to the east. We'll end up in Box Elder. The first neighborhood we're going to start with is Timberwood Park Estates. Homes in this neighborhood range between $600,000 to $1.3 million, with a square foot of 1,400 to 4,500. And you've got a little more acreage here between 1.15 to 3.15. Most of these homes here are built by Cassie Construction. There are a couple lots for sale in this area between $85,000 to $150,000, and those are between 1.3 to 3 acre parcels. Next, we'd head over to AR Ranch, which is just off Erickson Ranch Road. Definitely more of a meadow location, but you can see the hills in the distance. The homes that have been built in this neighborhood are between $450,000 to $800,000. They're between 1,400 and 3,500 square feet on 1 to 3.5 acres. Elite Custom Homes have built a lot of these homes, but there have been a number of builders that have built in this area. You can also bring your own builder to this area. The lots range from $85,000 to $125,000 with a size of 1 to 1.5 acres. Now let's head over between Somerset and Blackhawk. Along Anderson Road is Somerset Meadows. It looks like the homes in this area are going to be built between $700,000 and $900,000 with 1,800 to 2,800 square feet, acreage in the 1.75 to 3.5 acre parcels. This entire subdivision will be built by Superior Custom Homes, so there are no lots available for you to bring your own builder. Now let's head to the southwest part of town, down Sheridan Lake Road. This is about as close as you're going to get to the Black Hills while still being in town. High Point Ranch features some high-end homes from $750,000 to $1.25 million that range from 1,400 to 4,000 square feet on 0.23 to 1 acre parcels. A lot of these properties are built by Guthrie Incorporated and All Around Construction. In the past, lots here have sold for $175,000 to $320,000 for around a 0.54 acre lot, depending on your views and your location. Only one is available right now for $183,000. As we head to the east along Catron Boulevard, we come to Covenant Drive with the Bella Vista neighborhood. This is mostly built up. You've got 1 or 2 lots that may be available and some homes that have been built. The homes here are between $800,000 and $1.8 million, with the majority of them being big homes between 2,900 and 3,800 square feet. On acreage is 0.5 to 0.70. This neighborhood is built by TNT Homes and Construction, and they are the exclusive builder for this subdivision. As we go up 5th Street, we head down Minnesota. Down Shaker Drive, there is a subdivision called PLM3 with some lots still available in this neighborhood. These range between $400,000 and $850,000, with square feet between 2,000 to 3,500. You'll find lots anywhere between 0.33 to 0.75 acres. Just further up the street, we've got Scotland Hills, with some great views of the city and a tree-filled hill on the other. You can buy a home here between $800,000 and $1.5 million, with all the homes built being over 3,000 square feet. On acreage is 0.73 to 6 acres. A number of the homes around here have been built by All Around Construction, but a number have been built by other builders as well. If you've got your own builder, you can buy a lot here. You can get a 1-ish acre parcel for between $120,000 and $200,000. As we head north of the mall, we get into Misty Meadow subdivision, which is just to the south of Auburn Hills subdivision. This area is all townhomes, which might be slightly more economical than a single family. You can buy one side of the townhome in this area between $300,000 to $350,000, square footage ranging between 950 and 2,000 on just small 0.11 to 0.20 acre lots. Hunter Homes have been building these townhomes in this area. You can also buy some townhome lots that would be available for you as well, either for investment purposes or perhaps you could build a townhome, live in one, and rent the other out. These are selling for $42,000 a lot, but since you need to buy two for the townhome, you're spending between $80,000 and $85,000 for your set of two townhomes. And this is on a similar 0.11 to 0.15 acre lot. On the northwest side of the Auburn Hills subdivision, you've got single-family homes being built from $300,000 to $450,000. These are between 1,900 square feet and about 3,000 square feet on 0.20 to 0.30 acres. The homes in this area are built by Select Construction or Accurate Builders. As we move to the northeast side of town by Menards, this is the Shepherd Hill subdivision built by Hillsview Homes. This is the more national builder that I mentioned earlier that offers a few more discounts, etc. on their homes and are putting up a whole lot more in the area. You can buy a home in this subdivision starting at $300,000 and can option your way to well over $600,000. These homes start at 925 square feet and go all the way up to 3,800 square feet on acreages that range between 0.15 and 0.25. Now let's head over to the southeast part of town as we get closer to Rapid Valley. There's a brand new little loop being built on the edge of this that I assume, I don't have the exact numbers, but I assume will be similar to everything else in the subdivision. Homes in this area are between $400,000 and $625,000, 1,200 to 3,500 square feet on 0.20 to 0.38 acres. Being built by Zeisler Construction. There are two lots that are available in the subdivision if you'd like to bring your own builder. They're 0.91 acres and are listed between $110,000 and $125,000. Just up Willowbed Road is Elks Country Estates. There's a whole bunch of new lots ready and available for you to build your house in this subdivision. The homes in this area are between $500,000 to $800,000, 2,000 to 3,000 square foot, and set on 0.25 to 0.30 acres. Zanzer Construction is your main builder out here, but there have been various builders out here throughout the years. If you'd like to bring your own builder out here, you can buy a 0.20 to 0.45 acre lot for $80,000 to $90,000. Heading east on Highway 44 towards the airport, just past Reservoir Road, is Murphy Ranch Estates. Homes in this subdivision are built by two builders, Neslin Construction and Daz Construction, both of which are handling different price points. You'll find those price points $320,000 to $420,000, with 900 square foot homes all the way up to 2,400 square foot homes on 0.19 to 0.25 acre lots. The next subdivision is Apple Valley Subdivision, built by Hunter Homes, which has been building affordable homes in the area for a number of years. The homes in this area start at $290,000 all the way up to $350,000. The homes are between 950 square feet to 2,200 square feet, all on about 0.15 of an acre. Another affordable home neighborhood is in the process of being developed. That's located north of Emond Drive, which is called Emond Subdivision. Once they get rolling, they'll have homes starting at $210,000 all the way up to $225,000. These homes will be between 575 square feet and 800 square feet on 0.15 of an acre. As we head out to Box Elder, we get to the Northern Lights subdivision. The homes in this area are between $300,000 and $430,000, 1,150 to 2,400 square feet, and set on 0.17 to 0.31 acres. Built mostly by Boom Construction and TNT Homes and Construction. And then West Sunnyvale Road, we get to Alpha Omega Subdivision. My understanding of the plans is they plan to connect Alpha Omega with Northern Lights with all of this prairie right in here. Alpha Omega has homes between $300,000 to $400,000, 1,000 to 2,300 square feet, sitting on 0.16 to 0.29 acres. The homes in this neighborhood are being built by Unimax LLC. There are some 0.16 acres lots that are available. If you'd like to use their builder or bring your own, they're $62,000 for a single family lot or about $55,000 for a townhome lot. Heading into Box Elder on North Ellsworth Road, we get to the Liberty Park subdivision. The homes in this neighborhood are between $300,000 to $385,000, 1,100 to 2,000 square feet, and around 0.15 to 0.20 acres. Homes in this area are built by Zeisler Construction, Anderson Development, and S&S Homes. Also in this subdivision along Henry Potter Road are more homes built by Hillsview Homes. Because ground is a little bit cheaper out here, you'll have the same homes as Shepherd Hills in Rapid City, but they're starting a little bit cheaper at about $280,000 to over $450,000. These homes are between 925 and 2,500 square feet on 0.15 to 0.20 acres. Heading over to the east side of Box Elder by the truck stop, we've got the Red Fern subdivision. Homes in this neighborhood start about $305,000 and go up to $430,000. They're 870 to 2,000 square feet, and all of them are about 0.1 acres. Homes in this area are built by Boom Construction and TNT Homes and Construction. And finally, as we go south on 90 to Yorktown Road, we get to Freedom Estates, built by Top Shelf Construction. These homes are between $275,000 and $330,000, 975 to 2,000 square feet, and are on lots 0.15 to 0.25 of an acre. Of course, there are more lots and land parcels available throughout the Black Hills. I just chose to stick within Rapid City just to give you an idea of Rapid City itself without going too far out. When you start looking for homes in Rapid City, the first thing you'll notice is areas. What are these areas? If you've never been to Rapid City before, you don't know what Southwest is, what Northwest is, and what in the world is Pine Grove.
Think, think, think.
In this video, we're going to talk about the different Rapid City areas according to the Black Hills MLS to help you understand where the home is that you're thinking about buying.
To help you understand how Rapid City is laid out, let's look at this overview here in Google Maps. You can see here, as the Black Hills are on the west side, you have East Side Rapid City over here, and right down the middle, you have Skyline Drive and M Hill. Dinosaur Park is right here. So what you'll notice is, right here through the middle is an area where the majority of the traffic goes through, and this is the dividing line from West Rapid City to East Rapid City. This right here, it's called the Gap. The other thing to point out is Omaha Street here, which turns into West Chicago, is the main dividing line when it comes to North Rapid City and South Rapid City. Now let's look at the zips. This website here did a very good job of showcasing the zips in and around Rapid City. So you can see as we scroll into Rapid City, 5772 accompanies the west side of Rapid City, 57701 is the east side of Rapid City, and 57703 is the valley area. As we scroll north, we'll see Box Elder is 57719. This here is actually 57706, which is Ellsworth Air Force Base. 57769 is Piedmont. As you scroll here, this is 57718, which is Blackhawk and Somerset. These are the main zips of Rapid City, but as we scroll out, we can see more around the area. Hermosa is 5744, Custer is 57730, Hill City is 57745. So we go out to Sturgis is 57785, Spearfish is 57783. Lean Deadwood is 57732. This is a great representation to help you understand the zip codes around the Rapid City area. Now, let's get into the areas. Hey everybody, here we go. I've got my map put together for the Black Hills MLS areas that we have. And you'll notice we have the Black Hills here. Rapid City is here in the blue, the surrounding areas in the yellow. And of course, as we go over to east here, we've got east part of South Dakota. So let's scroll in and on the highlighted section here, and we'll start off with North Rapid City, and you'll be near Walmart here in North Rapid City. The mall is here. Down here you'll find some closer to the original homes between the 1940s and 1970s. North of the mall you're getting some 80s homes and some newer construction as we go off this way, and even up here in Auburn Hills subdivision. Now let's move over to the northeast section, which is right here. This is mostly commercial area down in this area here. Up here on Dias Avenue, though, you can get some bigger acreage prairie properties if that's what you're interested in. So that's what we have in the northeast section. As we scroll down to this area here, this is Rapid Valley. The main part of Rapid Valley has a bunch of different property types, different ages, different sizes. Quite an eclectic bunch here in Rapid Valley. Some of the more popular areas here are the newer areas up here called Big Sky, and over here is Copperfield. And up here is the newest construction called Copperfield Distance. As we move out here, we'll go over to City Center. Obviously, City Center is just that. It's mostly downtown. You'll find some smaller properties over here closer to the School of Mines, and some older properties down here near downtown. Beauty of being in this City Center area is, of course, your walking distance to downtown. Scrolling down then to Southeast Rapid City, what we'll find here is neighborhoods such as Robbinsdale and New Robbinsdale, new construction down here, as well as being in the hospital environment in the medical field. So if you need a job in this medical community, Southeast is a good place to be. Moving out now to go to West Boulevard. West Boulevard District is the historic part of Rapid City. Many 1900 turn-of-the-century homes lining West Boulevard. But as you go to up the top of the hill here, you'll have many beautiful properties, as well as a lot of more expensive properties as you travel off Floorman here, going up to Skyline Drive. As we get into southwest area of Rapid City, which is right here, we have some 1940 to 1960 neighborhoods in these areas down here. Canyon Lake View homes up in this area. Golf course properties around here. And as you go up Corral Drive, there's some $1 million properties up in here in the southwest part of Rapid City. So we scroll up now to northwest Rapid City. You'll find these neighborhoods here are again the 1940s to 1960 neighborhoods. with easy access out South Canyon Road or out Nemo Road to the Black Hills. As we scroll back out and go a little bit further to the west, we'll have the Nemo Road area, which, as you might imagine, follows Nemo Road for a bit. Most popular neighborhoods along this road are the Westbury Trails and South Canyon Country Estates. Scrolling back out, we'll go down one to Rimrock, which follows Highway 44, which is also called Rimrock Highway. There's plenty of Black Hills properties along this road, along with Heritage Homestead, Johnson Siding, and some Creekside properties. Just to the south is Sheridan Lake Road area, and as you can imagine, it follows Sheridan Lake Road out of town. Popular Sheridan Lake Road neighborhoods include the 1980s Countryside, the 1990s area Countryside South, as well as communities built around Red Rock Golf Course, including Red Rock Meadows and Red Rock Estates. As we back out now, we can go over to the east a little bit more, and this is Pine Grove. Pine Grove includes this area southeast of Highway 16. Some popular neighborhoods are around the South Rockerville Road, with some beautiful Black Hills properties, and townhomes along Spring Creek Road near the Heart Ranch Resort. As we scroll out, we can see just to the east of it, which is the neighborhood of Black Gap. Black Gap subdivision includes good-sized homes on larger lots in the subdivision.
Now let's talk about the areas around Rapid City here in the yellow. As we scroll over here, you can see this is Box Elder area. Of course, Box Elder and Ellsworth Air Force Base follows I-90 out a little bit here. Just to the north of Box Elder is Elk Creek area. This is Elk Creek Road here, and you'll find properties along this side of the east side that are prairie-like and more Black Hills foothills as you go towards I-90. As you scroll over, you'll see Piedmont Valley. This contains cities such as Blackhawk, Somerset, and Piedmont along the I-90 corridor. Scrolling up a little bit more, we have the Sturgis area. Obviously, this contains the city of Sturgis. As you go outside of Sturgis, there's a road called Boulder Canyon. This is the Boulder Canyon area, properties along this road here. Scrolling out and down, we go to the property just below Black Gap, and that is Hermosa Foothills, which contains the city of Hermosa and the area just south of that. Just off to the west is Mount Rushmore, which will be the area from Hermosa all the way over to Highway 385 to include Keystone and Rockerville. The other areas include Northern Hills, which includes Deadwood, Spearfish, and Belfouche. Central Hills, which includes Hill City and the area west towards the state line. And Southern Hills, which includes Custer and Hot Springs. As you go to the east, you'll be in Southern Plains, Central Plains, and Northern Plains.
There is one thing that you really need to be aware of, though. Within the Black Hills area, there are two realtor associations. One is called the Black Hills Association of Realtors, the other is called the Mount Rushmore Association of Realtors. The areas listed in our association are different than the areas listed in the Mount Rushmore Association. The easiest way to tell which association this property is listed in, whether it be the Black Hills Association of Realtors or the Mount Rushmore Association of Realtors, is to look at the MLS number. If the MLS number is above 150,000, that will be part of the Black Hills Association of Realtors. If it's below 100,000, that'll be part of the Mount Rushmore Association of Realtors, at least as of March 2020. Yes, I know it's ridiculous, but that's the way it is. Now that you know what area you want to live in, you can hone your search based upon that area to find out the properties that are just in that spot. Now, if you go to one of the national portals such as Realtor.com and Zillow, they may not have a way for you to search by area, but only by zip code. But if you come to my website, rapidhomesonline.com, you can search specifically for the areas you're interested in and get alerts for those properties.
Don't even think about moving to South Dakota unless you can handle these 7 things. Everybody, it's Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. One of the commenters on my YouTube video stated, well, hey, it might be okay, but it ain't heaven. And he's right. There are certain things about the state of South Dakota that you need to understand before you consider moving to the area. Number 1, that weather be crazy. South Dakota has about everything you can imagine aside from hurricanes. Really, really cold, really, really hot and humid. There's hail, there's tornadoes. You can find all these weather things somewhere in the state of South Dakota. Now let's back up a little bit and talk about the different geography part of South Dakota, because the weather is a lot different on each side of the state. If you get into the Black Hills, near where I am, we have this banana belt effect around the Black Hills. So our weather, like during the winter time, we have moments where the winter will get nice and warm. It'll be 40, 50 degrees. The snow will melt and things will feel pretty good, and then it'll snow again. It'll feel like winter again. A lot of times on the east side of the state, once you get snow, you have snow the entire year, and it's usually 10 degrees colder than it is in the Black Hills area. It's also drier on the west side of the state than the east side of the state. As soon as you cross the Missouri River, that humidity hits you like a brick. And the 95-degree weather in Sioux Falls is a whole lot hotter feeling than it is in Rapid City and the Black Hills. Here near the Black Hills, tornadoes isn't really a big concern for us, but as you get over into the prairie, those can be something you need to talk about. You better make sure you have good insurance on the west side of the state, because that's where we get hit with hail consistently. And no matter where you are in the state of South Dakota, the one thing that's constant is the wind. Now, it might always not be blowing like a gale all the time, but generally speaking, there's some kind of air movement going on, except for during some of the summer months when it really calms down. However, fall time, when the weather kind of gets through, and springtime especially, we can have days of 30, 40 mile an hour winds consistently. But you can't beat the clean air and those sunsets. Number 2, taxes.
Taxes! Taxes! Beautiful, lovely taxes!
Now, we know we don't have any state income tax, and there's a lot of great things regarding the taxes in the state of South Dakota. In fact, the Tax Foundation has South Dakota as the number 2 best state for taxes overall. However, once you get here, you're going to start looking at those property taxes. And yeah, just because we're number 2 there doesn't mean we're number 2 in that category. We're actually number 17 in the property tax category. Between 1.1 and 1.3% usually is kind of what you'd be expected to pay on those property taxes. And while that's not as bad as Texas, some of the other Midwest states are considerably cheaper. Number 3, the cost of living, it ain't where it used to be. Depending on what website you look at and how they calculate the cost of living, what all they include in that, etc., South Dakota ranks between number 7, most affordable state, and number 17. With the recent influx of people coming to South Dakota, the home prices shot up in the past couple years, as much as 30%. And those wages didn't necessarily rise up with that. So the majority of the homes that are able to purchase, and even the rentals, are getting very, very hard to afford for your $15 an hour workers. However, if you want to live in small town South Dakota, you might have a chance to buy something for considerably cheaper. The larger towns such as Rapid City and Sioux Falls, the average sale price there is over $300,000. Towns such as Watertown and Pierre are around $265,000, and Aberdeen about $215,000. But smaller towns such as Mobridge and Redfield, you can buy a home there from anywhere between $125,000 to $135,000 on average. Number 4, South Dakota is remote. We've got around 900,000 people in the state of South Dakota. Now, to put that in perspective, you can take 3.5 almost South Dakotans and put it within Denver. There's about 11 people per square mile in the state of South Dakota. To put that into perspective, the state of New Jersey has about 1,300 people per square mile. In the state of South Dakota, we've got 2 big cities, and that's not very big compared to the rest of the country. Sioux Falls on the east side of the state, that's over 200,000 people, and Rapid City on the west side is about 75,000, 80,000 people. From there, we've got 3 cities that are between 20,000 and 30,000 people, 2 cities at about 15,000 people, and the rest of those 300-some cities are under that 15,000 people mark. In fact, about 40 cities have under 50 people living in them. Now, because of this, you're not going to have any massive shopping opportunities. There's a saying that says we have a little bit of everything, but not a whole lot of everything. And that was true for Rapid City and Sioux Falls. But if you're living in one of the smaller cities, you're probably going to want to travel to one of the bigger cities to do your bigger shopping. And because of our remoteness, we have more shipping costs for things coming into the state. And if you think you can get your Amazon package in 2 days, maybe, maybe not. South Dakota is a huge agricultural state. In fact, there are 3 cows to every 1 person in the state of South Dakota. On the east side of the state, you'll find lots of corn and soybean fields, a lot of farming going on over there. On the west side of the state, the landscape is a lot rougher. You've got a few more breaks, and there's a lot more ranching on the west side of the state. But no matter where you go, 70% of the roads in South Dakota are gravel. You're driving down country roads, past amazing landscapes, but next to farms and fields. And all those animals, all the farms, they've got the certain smells that you got to get used to. Number 6, there ain't no major sports in South Dakota. Obviously, there's no way a major team could be supported in the state. So usually it's the Minnesota teams and the Colorado teams that are high in the list priorities for South Dakotans. However, South Dakota is really strong in the local sports and youth leagues.
We have been put on the map recently with the South Dakota State University football team winning the national championship 2 years in a row. Speaking of SDSU, there are no major universities in the state of South Dakota. We have South Dakota State University in Brookings, University of South Dakota in Vermilion, which has a great nursing and law program. On the west side of the state, there's Black Hills State University and the School of Mines in Rapid City, which is known for its engineering degrees. And my son is going to Dakota State University in Madison, South Dakota. They're going to be a pretty popular school for the cybersecurity program there in DSU. Of course, there are also a number of local community colleges and smaller area colleges that probably be more affordable for you to get that higher education. But if you're looking for one of the major schools, you've got to go to Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, or Colorado. And number 7, it's pretty red here. South Dakota has always been a very, very conservative state. Some might argue almost too much to one side, but that's just the way it has been and probably always will be for the foreseeable future. The majority of South Dakota has strong conservative values. It takes kind of a dim view of liberal ideals. So if you're thinking of coming to the state and overthrowing the right to carry a gun, you're probably not going to be very successful at that anytime soon. But if you can get past these 7 items that I've noted, South Dakota is a state of amazing people that'll give you the shirt off their backs if they need to, where the air is clear, we have amazing landscapes and sunsets, the economy is usually stable, there's a whole bunch of lakes and rivers, hunting, fishing, outdoor activities, so many amazing things to do and see in the state of South Dakota. There are some things I simply can't talk about. Hey everybody, it's Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. Now, I've had a few comments lately that express that I haven't really been truly honest with how things are in every neighborhood, especially regarding to crime. And the fact of the matter is, I can't talk to you about that per area. Let's begin by talking about monkey bars. That's right, monkey bars. These are the 8-foot metal things you crawl across of when we were kids in elementary school. Well, of course, we didn't just hand hit back and forth. We climbed on top of them. We hung out there. We hung from them upside down. And of course, one day, Johnny fell off and broke his arm. Sorry, poor Johnnies. They always get blamed for everything. But Johnny broke his arm. So therefore, there was rules made. Now you can no longer climb on top of monkey bars. And then somebody else got hurt by just doing the hand over hand on the monkey bars. So another rule is made, and basically no more playing on the monkey bars. This is essentially what happened in the real estate world. Back in the mid-1900s, some real estate agents decided to do whatever they could to get a buck. They were doing a couple practices now known as blockbusting and steering. Blockbusting is when they would go to a property and say, hey, you know what? See that across the road, that guy right there? Those guys are Italian Americans. You know what happens when they get together and they have parties? The neighborhood's gonna be ruined. And so these homeowners, scared for their way of life, decided to sell their properties. That was blockbusting. And then similarly, there was steering, where a real estate agent would tell a buyer, do you sure you wanna live over there? You know, there's a bunch of Norwegians over there. All they say is ufta and talk about lutefisk. Boy, that's just a really crazy life. You don't wanna live over there, you wanna live over here. And thus these real estate agents were steering clients to live in one area or another, usually at a profit or gain to themselves. Imagine that. So because of these idiots, rules were made. Not just any old rules, but federal rules. And of course, this was a good thing, but it's the Federal Fair Housing Act that it was implemented in 1968. Now, this Fair Housing Act not only prohibits realtors from steering and blockbusting, but it also protects certain classes of people from being discriminated against. I know, common sense, right? But somebody fell off the monkey bars, and now there's rules. But before we get into these protected classes, let's talk a little bit more about steering, because this is the item where, as real estate agents, especially working in a relocation, moving to the area type videos like this one is. But due to this Fair Housing Act, it is illegal for me to tell you what is a good area or what is a bad area. And we're not just talking about like best practices. We're talking about huge fines and loss of license. It's serious. We have hours and hours of continuing education just on fair housing. So if you ask me, is this area safe? Is there a lot of crime in this area? So all I can do is provide you a resource. I say, here's some links, check it out for yourself, make the decision for yourself on whether or not you feel that area is safe or not for you and your family. A lot of this also has to do with perspective. What I might term as good or bad is going to be different than what you might consider good or bad, depending on your background and etc. I had a client that came into town once, spent a lot of time in inner city New York. After driving all around town and looking at some really cheap properties, he said, none of this is an issue. None of it is a problem for me whatsoever. My daughter, in her freshman year of School of Mines here in town, we made her go to the dorms so she could have the full college experience. Now, she's lived in Rapid City her whole life. Once she had her license, she was driving to Target and Starbucks and shopping all by herself. Never had a problem. And a lot of the kids in her class and in her dorm were from small communities, usually some small farming Midwest communities. A lot of these were farm and ranch boys that were looking at the girls and saying, now wait a minute, you make sure that you have somebody with you, because this Rapid City area, it's full of crime. You're going to want to make sure you have someone with you at all times, no matter where you're going. And Emily was just kind of like, what? I've lived here my whole life. What are you talking about? So your perspective plays a huge role in what you consider safe or not safe. I always recommend when people are thinking about moving to the area that they come up here, that they drive around, they even drive around some areas that they're looking at night, kind of get a feel for what it feels like at night. Now, I'm not saying that there is no crime in Rapid City. If you look at the numbers, it's obvious that there's a per capita number that's off the charts, et cetera, et cetera. I was talking with a sheriff's deputy once, and I said, okay, Mr. Deputy, I've seen these huge numbers, but in my day-to-day life, I haven't really experienced it. I don't really see that where I am at and what I see. And he said, you know what, a majority of those numbers are bad guy fighting bad guy and domestic disturbances. And as Rapid City grows, we're gonna get more of that crime stuff going on. With the cost of living in the area not really matching the wages, and as people get more and more desperate, things kind of start happening. Like in the end of 2020, it seemed like we had a lot more like car robberies and porch thefts and that kind of thing as people were trying to figure out ways to, get through this pandemic thing. So I'll drop a few links below in the notes below that some clients of mine have shared with me where they did their research on the crime and the schools and the different things in the Rapid City area. So you can do your research and decide for yourself if Rapid City is the place for you or not. But if you ask me that question directly, I'm not gonna be able to tell you, don't go here, go over here. That's steering. All right, now let's talk about the protected classes that I can't discriminate against. The first one, obviously, is race. If you want to know the demographic makeup of Rapid City, the Black Hills area, there are plenty of census links, etc., to look that stuff up. I'm not going to be able to give you that information, nor be able to tell you where certain ethnic populations may or may not be in the city. Race is the first one. The second one is religion. This is a common mistake that sometimes agents use when advertising a property for sale. They'll say right down the street is the Catholic Church, or right near the mosque, or something like that. If you come to me and say, Tristan, I really want to be in a community with a bunch of Christians in it. Nope, can't say anything about that. The third one is sexual preference. Obviously, this one also reflects with agents helping people. No matter what their sexual preference, they can buy a property no matter what their sexual preference, etc., etc. But if you're looking for a community that's more pro whatever your sexual preference is versus another, that's not something I can find for you. The next one is national origin. And I kind of used this one on my story at the beginning regarding steering, although I don't really think anybody's really worried about a bunch of Norwegians getting together. But this could easily translate into Chinese or Irish or Mexican. I'm never gonna be able to tell you, yeah, that group of people, they're over here. This next one is kind of interesting, and that's familial status. So if you wanted to be in a all singles community, not something I'm gonna be able to find for you. We're not supposed to say things such as, oh, this is a family-friendly neighborhoods, or I don't wanna live in an area with a bunch of kids running around. That's protected group familial status. Interestingly enough, age is not a part of this equation. So that's why we can have 55 plus communities and retirement communities, and those type of things if you're looking for similar older people to hang with and to live with. And finally is disability. Of course, this one makes sense. Just because you have a disability doesn't mean that you can buy a house or sell a house, etc., etc. So I know it sucks. You're contacting a local real estate professional that's lived there for a while, and I'm not gonna tell you where's good, where's bad, where's the other, because I simply can't. I've got duct tape over my mouth because federal housing laws. I know fair housing law is boring, but I had a number of comments where I thought, well, I probably should put this video together. So I addressed some of the issues about crime, about what I can and cannot say, so you know what you have to research on your own to find your own answers.
Did you make it all the way through? I hope it gave you a good idea of what to expect to move on our area in 2025. The links to the resources that I mentioned in some of these videos are in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Remember, love where you live.